Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FinCom 2022 by CXO Global. Now, CXO Global is a knowledge sharing platform for all C-levels across the globe. We take massive pride in contributing to the knowledge economy, and as we've been doing all day long with this FinCom Summit 2022, Day 2, we've now got a very interesting case study by Mr. Anwar Hassan from ISEL. And the case study is going to be about cybersecurity. And the session is called Solo. So I'm very excited to listen to Mr. Hassan share his thoughts. And sir, the screen is all yours. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for this opportunity. And thank you to CXO Global team. My name is Anwar Hassan. I'm the Senior Vice President, Commercial Operations at Excel Technologies in UAE, Dubai. And just a very quick introduction of Excel Technologies. It was formed in 2009. And now we are present in UAE and Saudi and Oman and in Kenya, in Africa. And we have our Center of Excellence in UAE and the UK, and now we are thinking of starting our operations and back office for advanced analytics and digital infrastructure in Pakistan, in Islamabad and Karachi. So today's topic given to me is intelligent. I will not call it cybersecurity because things have moved and progressed, and now we call it intelligent security. So I wanted to share my perspective on intelligent security in what is happening. So the case study, not the case study, but I would say the industry that I'm picking is large enterprises, private enterprises or government sectors in Pakistan or globally. So basically, as I said, intelligence security needs and challenges in 2022. Because Excel Technologies and I work very closely with the UAE and the other governments in the region. And pretty much if we compile all the issues, all the needs and challenges and their way forward in 2022, we can sum it up in a few areas that where the challenges are, where the breaches are, where the threats and vulnerabilities are. So moving forward, if you look at it from a cyber hacker, what are they exactly looking for? A hacker, they have a single goal, and that is to get the privileged access to carry attacks on your system. And what do they want? They want to gain access to your valuable systems and assets. And that's exactly that the systems are your CRM or your HRM, your ERP, where they can basically get information about your clients. They can get sensitive information about your clients, their spend pattern, how much are they spending with you. For example, if it's a bank, their credit card details. If it's a travel agency, their passport and other identity details. And if you, in an organization, employee salaries and all that. And then, if you look at it these days, because organizations are moving from a traditional way of doing business, just on the ground, which is physical, having your own physical servers and networks and databases secured in your office. Now, since things have been started to move on the cloud, so you can say your privileged access is not isolated anymore. It's scattered. It's decentralized now. It's on open servers. It's on your application development operations, or DevOps as we call it, pipelines, endpoints, and especially hybrid and multi-cloud environments. Now, regardless of the the kind of technology you have basically implementing in your organization, your biggest threat is always you can spend millions of dollars in buying technology and trying to secure your networks and endpoints and the things that I've talked about. At the end of the day, it's the end user. It's me and you, a human, factor is there. So if there is a negligence, so the thing is, the breach can happen. I'm not talking about externally, where somebody from the outside is trying to attack into your organization. I'm talking about internally as well. Internally, there are three main reasons. It could be a planned, it could be just negligence, and it can be just an honest mistake. But regardless of the three, the damage is the same. For example, a disgruntled or an angry employee who's this is his last day. There has been cases like somebody was fired from HR and they just basically went and printed out the whole employee salary list and they just left it around people's desks like for people finding out. So this is basically one case. Another thing is an employee taking out the customer database and selling it to competition and things like that. So this is planned or by negligence or honest mistake, but the amount of the damage or the scale of the damage is pretty much the same, which the companies have to pay. So again, the questions we are asked that what is it that organizations can do? Okay, the governments have big budgets, right? The governments can basically look into spending much more than a small or in enterprise. When it comes to governments, that's fine, but when it comes to enterprises, especially small to medium enterprises or even large conglomerates, especially after COVID. COVID has pretty much changed the whole spectrum when the employees have started to work away from work, either from home or outside. So it's remote working is basically the new norm now. So when it's happening is you have to look, the organization have to look at certain points. First of all, each individual has now multiple endpoints because he's accessing his CRM or ERP or uh, HRM, from his phone, from his mobile tablet, from his laptop. So each end user or employee has multiple devices that need to be secured. So there's a huge factor of mobile device management. How do you secure it? That's one, and it's not cheap. Then it comes to so again, people when we're talking, so it's basically if you look at the cybersecurity or intelligence security, it is not basically 100-meter dash that just you reach one point and that's it, you've done it, you're secure. No, it's a marathon. It's a lifestyle. It's a journey. You have to keep implementing, keep updating yourself because the hackers are always a step ahead of you. So you have to make sure that they're not a step ahead of you. You are a step ahead of them. So where does it start from? It starts from the advisory services, which means when organizations or clients, government or large enterprises or SMEs, they invite us. What do we have to look into? We have to look into their enterprise security maturity. So how mature are they? The roadmap. What's the roadmap like? How aligned is CFO with the CIO and CTO? Because CFO has got a different KPI, which is to stop the spend, whereas the CIO, the CTO, or CSIO, Chief Security Information Officer, his job is to basically secure and buy more technologies. Maybe it's hardware or software. So that relationship between uh, an organization's teams is very, very important. HR kicks in. Why? Because once the CFO has assigned millions of dollars of budget, they basically and the CIO or CSI or CTO is buying that technology, then it's HR's responsibility to make sure it trickles down the right message and education to the employees that what needs to be done. Then comes to cybersecurity assessments. Then the governance, risk, and compliance automation, which is from bank's perspective, we have done a lot of projects with the banks in UAE and outside UAE, where they want to implement more strict anti-money laundering checkpoints using technology, which is basically fantastic. And we've seen results because we keep going in and we keep sharing the logs with them. Then comes the technology domain. So once the advisory service is done, when you do the audits, IT audits, what are they using, where are the gaps, then comes okay, what technologies? One thing since recently there are customer data uh, protection laws now that no matter what happens, the organization will be responsible in case there's a breach in their system and their customer data is hacked. So how do you protect that? Uh, then comes like, okay, the thing is like, how do we now in 2022 when we're talking about, sorry, in 2021 when we're talking to a lot of our clients, they talk about zero trust. Okay, zero trust means like, that, okay, how do we implement more systems, more processes? So it's not based on a human factor to assess. For example, when you're entering an organization or an office, there's a human security guard who will look at your ID. Okay, if he's looking at hundreds of people or thousands of people every day, there may be a chance of a human error that he may miss it. But if you just basically put an access, give everybody an access card, and there's a machine, like, they have to put it. The day somebody is fired from an organization and the HR has deactivated his access card, the next morning, this person cannot enter the organization, nor he can get access to any system. Whereas the security guy may or may not, like, check him or let him go inside. So again, so when it comes to zero trust, how do we basically, like, just make sure that it is not based on humans, but it's more of a system driven, like, environment. So identity and access management or intelligent security operations. Like, these are the capabilities that we look into. Cloud infrastructure and endpoint security is extremely important. Why? Because these days every organization is migrating to cloud, and as I said, like, the end users, the employees have at least 2 to 3 uh, endpoints they're using to access, like, company sensitive information. Managed services, again, like, it's a huge there's a huge growth in it because now organizations have realized that we don't have to have all these expensive resources on board. We can outsource in a way, like, either these resources are working remotely or they're working on site, but they're not they're not company's responsibility, but they're why? Because you may be a bank, you may be the biggest bank in the world, but cybersecurity or intelligence security is not your forte. It's not something that you do day in day out. You are using security as a tool to secure your customer database and other applications. So what they do, like, they are hiring organizations like Excel Technologies, for example, to basically provide them like, managed security services for vulnerability management or operations, or like, very, like, advanced security operations. And for example, like, user or entity based analytics and all that, like, just to make sure that how employees are behaving while using, like, the systems within the organization. Privilege access management, there you go. Data loss prevention, I've talked about. Privilege access management is like, that we can monitor each employee's, like, which systems are they accessing, if they're allowed in that section of the system or not. So we can red flag it and let the concerned people in the organization know. But this is basically the financial sector needs and challenges in 2022. From our perspective, we work very closely with big consultants like Gartner, Forrester, Allen Booz, and all. Now, coming to the factor, like, I just wanted to share this slide again. If you look at the inner circle, you will see, like, intelligence security operations or identity and access management or infrastructure and endpoint security, data protection and privacy, security governance, risk and compliance. This inner circle will always remain the same. It's the outer circle where you are seeing all these different names like IronNet to Soft ID to Digital Guardian, Fishrod, or checkmarks. This will keep changing. Why? Because of your right hand side, if you look at it, you will see, like, that I've shared the recent Gartner Magic Quadrant. These products, these like, quadrants, they keep changing because technology is such fast moving in recent years, especially after COVID, that, like, we have to keep an eye on what is the latest technology in the market. Like, we keep going and keep consulting our clients that what needs to be changed, what needs to be enhanced. So uh, all of this given, let us talk about, like, intelligence security services challenges in Pakistan. Well, in in 2021, this number is not from government or another consulting source. This is something that Excel Technologies experienced directly with its clients. In from H2 2022, end of 2021, there were 2,600 approximately intelligence security resources hired in and from the end of 2022, end of 2021, 2,600, and mainly like in CyberArk, Office 365 security and compliance, from E3 to E5 migration, OpsWatch, SailPoint. Less than 5% came from Pakistan. Earlier, I was talking to Mr. Gaul of CXO Global, and we were just discussing, like, what is the main issue? Where's the gap over here? And I was just discussing it, and I was like, Gaul, like, whenever I visit Pakistan, I've been in UAE for the last a little over 15 years. Came from Australia with the United Nations, and I found this country an excellent mix of East and West. And then I thought, like, yeah, this is a good base. I want to stay here, close to Pakistan, where my parents live. They keep traveling. I keep traveling very frequently. So last year when I went there, I wanted to basically visit a few universities and just find out, like, what is it that we can do for the students. So my first step was like, let's basically just go and find more students. What we were, because Excel Technologies hired more than around 100 people last year for our clients. They work for Excel, but they're either working remotely or on site at the client side. And we have not hired a single resource from Pakistan when it comes to intelligence security, with looking at latest technologies. I was discussing with Kamal. I was like, Kamal, where do you think the gap is? We have a huge, population. I think we are fifth or sixth largest country in the world, and still, we can't. So I can't accept the fact that there are no students, there are no cybersecurity, students coming out of universities. But where are they? We have put on our website, we have put on social media, but I've hardly received from the resumes that we received. They were not of the caliber that we could hire them for our clients like Emirates Airlines or Prime Minister Office or Department of Electricity and Water Authority in UAE or some of the largest banks in the region. So I think, the main gap that we realized was maybe there should be a better alliance or a collaboration between universities and government and private entities, where private entities, they should have their CXO levels, especially CIOs or CTOs or CSIOs, visiting the universities and talking to the students about latest technologies and all. I think so. These are the gaps. These are the things that need to be addressed better. I'm sure that must be happening. I'm not saying it's not happening, but I think it needs to be. Why? Because we personally, as an organization who's always looking out for good resources, we have not found any. So this is basically my 2 cents on the factor. I don't want to go further on big data or business intelligence, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and advanced analytics. That's another big area. I will just keep it to on in this session, up to the intelligence security part. And if you guys want to reach out to Excel Technologies, you can always contact CXO Global, and we'll see what we can do together. Thank you very much. Hamza, are you still there? I'll just stop sharing the screen, and then it's over to you. Thank you very much, guys. And thank you very much for your time, Hamza, and Kawal Masroor, and CXO Global team. Have a nice day, guys. Thank you very much.